Today we're really pleased to introduce Ed Stafford, explorer and survival expert, but also world record holder for travelling the whole length of the Amazon. Great to see you today, and thanks for having us in your home.
Absolute pleasure.
Now, you've had the Ecco Stove in your home now for a few months now.
Yeah.
How have you found it so far? Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing bit of kit. I saw the advert in the Listed Properties Owners Club magazine, I think. We bought this house about a year ago, and it was damp and it was cold, and as much as we fell in love with the house, the central heating system was archaic and half of the house wasn't even heated at all. And so the advert for the stove said that one stove installed in the house could heat the whole house, and I thought that sounds too good to be true, really. But I have to say, from the moment it was installed, it's just literally done exactly what it says in the tin. We had an old fireplace in here, and you had to sit right by the fire in order to actually heat yourself, because all the heat just went straight up the chimney. And now the chimney's been lined and this stove's gone in, it literally doesn't just heat this house, it heats the corridor, of which all the bedrooms are opposite, upstairs. All of the bedrooms in the morning are heated, the whole house feels warm, and it was damp before, it was really damp. It feels just comfortable now. It's made the whole place a lot more homely, I would say.
Fantastic. I'm glad it's done everything we said it's advertised to do so. Now, you've got a couple of questions there that we've been asked in the past. Perhaps we can go through some of those and provide some answers.
Okay, yeah. First one is, it's called an Ecco Stove, but why is it so eco-friendly?
So the Ecco Stove is named so because you get a very high charge burn. It will then store that in the stove, and then it will continue to radiate that after the fire's gone out. So you don't have to have a continual fire, although you can do if you want to. Because you're getting such a high temperature burn, it's also very, very efficient. So you're producing less carbon emissions than a tree decomposing naturally in a forest.
It's a little bit larger than most stoves, equivalent stoves that are cast iron. Why is that?
Okay, so it's a thermal mass product. So you're charging the stove with heat, so you need it to be stored into the product. So a lot of what you see isn't actually for output, but heat retention. Yeah. You've also got a larger surface area for that distribution after that charge has been given. This allows it to push the heat for a good length of way, and also to get a nice balanced heat.
Is there a risk, because it is so much bigger and because it's heating the whole house, that it'll overheat your room?
Because of the way that it charges, it retains that heat. It shields the heat from the room initially, so you don't get all of that heat that it's producing all in one go. A lot of it's held in the appliance, and it gradually dissipates it over time. And obviously, if you're using the distribution points of the stove and not having to rely completely on a fire, you get a much more balanced wave passing out. So just depending on the property you're going for, you just change your habits as how you fire the stove and what batch quantity you stick on. It's very simple to keep it at a balanced temperature.
I suppose the main sort of advertising selling point for me certainly was that it heats the whole house rather than just the room. How does that happen?
Okay, so this comes down to silicon carbide. So it releases the heat in a very different way than metal will. It's almost producing a lower frequency heat wave. So this allows the heat to travel further and not lose so much energy as it travels. It won't reflect off objects, so it can pass through and around the area. Now, the beauty of that is it creates almost a natural circulation of heat throughout the house. So you'll get a high level of heat transferring out of each room, while simultaneously having a cooler air passing back into the room, warmed up by the stove, and then sent back out again because the stove is staying warm for such a long time. So over time, it also equalises the temperature between floor and ceiling.
It's a really comfortable heat. Why does it give a different type of heat than most stoves?
So again, coming down to the silicon carbide largely, it's filtering that heat. So instead of releasing it all in one go, it's giving it a much more gentle wave. And that allows you to acclimatise to it more, but also means that you're not getting barraged by an extremely high radiant source.
If it's radiating heat over a long time, does it take a long time to heat it?
Not necessarily, no. I mean, if you're starting from very cool temperatures, it might take a day to heat the house up from a 10 or 12 degrees or a little bit warmer than that. But obviously, once you start using the stove on a regular basis, if you're starting from a higher level, 16, 17 degrees in the house, you can raise it by 3 degrees very quickly, and typically 2 to 3 hours you'll feel the benefits throughout the whole house.
So a lot of the magic essentially seems to happen because of this substance, silicon carbide. You'll have to excuse me, I haven't got a clue what that is. What is that?
So it is a natural material. It's found in meteorites, but obviously it's difficult for us to harvest those and replicate it. So it's a man-made product now, silica and carbon. The beauty of the product itself is it's got very high retention to heat. It's got very good transfer rate of heat, but it's also got a very high resistance to heat. So it's not going to start expanding and contracting until it gets past 2,000 degrees, which makes it perfect for this sort of usage. We can obviously get the combustion chamber up to 900 to 1100 degrees without worrying about damaging the stove. So we can get those high efficiency burns without overheating the room and without damaging the product.
Because it is doing so much in terms of heating the whole house, does it therefore mean that it burns a huge amount of fuel?
The amount of fuel it will burn is relative to your heat loss or your insulation levels,
right?
And also how big an area you want to heat. So a smaller property might only take 6 or 7 kilograms, and it might only need that once or twice a day. A larger property would take the same amount of fuel, but you might need to use that 3 or 4 times a day. So it's very much suitable for a passive home or an old listed property as you've got here.
Amazing. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Ed. If you'd like to know more about the Ecco Stove, you can find us on ecostove.com. There's 2 C's in Ecco Stove, and we look forward to speaking to you in the future.